G'day, I'm Paul. So you may have noticed recently the Ford Ranger has kind of been stealing the limelight, but if you do want a dependable and affordable ute, the Mitsubishi Triton still has a great price tag on it, and they just keep rolling out more of these editions with more and more features on them. This one here is the top specification Triton GSR. It's also got the optional bull bar on the front here. This one's priced at a little under $56,000, which, when you think about it, for the top specification, is pretty cheap compared to some of the other competitors on the market. If that's too expensive though, the entire range kicks off at just over 24 grand. This competes with things like the Toyota Hilux, the Ford Ranger, Nissan Navara. It's a very full segment. Today we're going to be doing a detailed review of this ute. So if you do want to skip ahead to other parts of this review, you can use the time codes on the screen, or if you're on YouTube, you can scroll down and use the chapters below. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so you can find out every single time we drive a ute with a big old bull bar. Now let's talk exterior. You've got 4 colors to pick from, and strangely all but white is free of charge. White is just $200, so it is pretty cost effective when you look at some cars. In fact, when you look at, what was it the other day, the Volvo, which was almost $2,000 to get another color. This surely has more paint on it, but anyway, this also has the optional accessory bull bar fitted to it. What you can't see under the front end there is that signature front end that we've seen on other Mitsubishi family products like the Pajero Sport, Triton, and we're now seeing it rolled out to things like the Outlander and that kind of thing. But this is a pretty decent looking front end. They have made a few changes here to this front section. So where that bull bar comes in, it cuts off part of where your traditional front end is around here. So they have integrated, given that this is a genuine fit item, parking sensors into here, and that means that you are still getting the effects of your front parking sensor. Camera is also still there as well. So it's good that they've kept all of that intact. You don't need to lose any functionality just because you want to get this bull bar. Now, around the top here, you've got LED headlights with LED daytime running lights. You can also fit a light bar to the front here if you do need additional visibility. So you've got screw holes there already, and you can get a wiring kit to make all that happen. We'll whip around to the side here. You got yourself a set of 18-inch alloy wheels. Now, this is an interesting tyre because we tested the Ford Ranger recently with the all-terrain instead of the highway terrain here, and weren't a big fan of it in the wet. So today is dry, but I'll be keen to see how the highway terrain tyre performs as opposed to the all-terrain tyre. The design of the wheel is pretty straightforward. It's just a black, piano black setup there. No wheel arch guards here. It is funny. The harder core the four-wheel drive is, the less sort of artificial cladding and stuff they have on the side here. This is all just very much a straightforward setup. There are rumours as well that Mitsubishi is actually working on a more hardcore version of the Triton before the next generation comes in. So I suspect one of the Australian companies that has been modifying utes will pick up the contract for that and make this a little bit more extreme. And keep in mind as well that the next generation will share a platform with the Nissan Navara, with Mitsubishi leading that project. So excited to get a bit more information on that. Up the top here, you have piano black on the mirror there with an indicator built into there. You have a camera here for the 360 camera. Side steps. It's like a metal of some sort. You will notice with things like Ranger, I kind of complained that the side steps were just fully made of plastic. This is just a much better look. It's probably just as durable as the plastic setup, but I just think it's a better design, and it just makes it look a little more rugged, I guess. You've got privacy glass over here. Now around the back here, you've got a mix of LED and incandescent here in the rear taillight. GSR badge just here, Triton on the other side. Haven't seen this before. Piano black on the outside, on the rear of the car, down here as well. Very interesting. Unlike other utes in this segment, this only has a 3,100 kilo braked towing capacity instead of 3.5 tonnes, so it is a little down on the competition. Brake light built into here, and let's have a little sticky beak under here. We'll get rid of this tonneau cover. I like this setup here. It's a little different to the others on the market with retractable sort of roller covers. That's a pretty sort of agricultural setup. Now under here, you're going to find a load depth of just over 1,500 mil, just under 1,500 mil for the load width, with 1085 between the wheel arches. You have just over 900 kilograms of payload and a depth of almost 500 mil as well. Now the interesting thing here is we are seeing a lot of utes, or newly released utes, fitted with a torsion bar here to make this easier to open and close. This is obviously devoid of that given how old this platform is, but inside the tray here you do have some creature comforts like your tie downs. You've also got a bed liner as well, just to keep things nice and secure, but it is pretty straightforward. There are no real bells and whistles here. It's just designed to get the job done, and it does it, I guess, in the most affordable way possible. Now let me know what you think in the comments section. Is this more up your alley, or do you want to go the full ducks nuts of utes and spend as much money as you can for all the fancy stuff, or is a Triton more down your alley? Let me know in the comment section below. So we are inside the Triton. Let's start off with the key. So you've got lock, unlock, blank, and then on the back you have the Mitsubishi logo. This is a proximity sensing key, so you leave that in your pocket and you have a push button start just over here. Look, I'm not going to lie, this is very much like stepping back in time. It is kind of where utes were 10 years ago in terms of the materials and just the presentation. And look, I'm okay with that because you're not exactly paying super stupendous dollars for this, so you can get away with a more basic sort of rugged interior. So that means scratchy surfaces across the entire car. This one has the optional tanned leather interior, so you do get these soft touch finishes along the sides here in the seats. But for the most part, this does look pretty sort of basic, which is fine. Now, in terms of your touch points, that's really nice and soft and quite hard on the door. How soft are they? Well, we've got our gyrometer. We've tested the main surfaces in this cabin. If you want to see how this car compares to others that we've tested before, have a look at the link in the description. Build quality. That is very wonky through the center there. The rest of this feels pretty good. Have you owned a Triton before? Do you own one now? What's it like over the long term in terms of reliability? Keen to find out. Door test. Some big beeping there, but outside of that, the door sounds nice and sturdy. Let's chat about infotainment. So you have a 7-inch infotainment screen. It's pretty basic in terms of its functionality, so you don't have any inbuilt satellite navigation. It's all driven through smartphone mirroring. But in terms of radio, you have AM, FM, DAB, digital radio, and that's all plumbed through a 6-speaker sound system. The sound system isn't very good, but it produces sound, so you can listen to it if you need to. If you do want your smartphone mirroring, it is all wired, so it has both Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. I'll show you what Android Auto looks like first. So yeah, it's sort of pretty straightforward, works okay, nice and crisp. You then also have a voice recognition function, and this is what Apple CarPlay looks like. So same sort of story, does the job without any dramas. One interesting thing though, it does actually have a HDMI input. So I guess if you want to stream a movie or something like that, you can do that, but I mean, the screen's so small, I don't know why you would want to stream a movie on it. Ahead of the driver, you do have another small display. That is just for your trip computer and other basic functions. Outside of that, the rest of your controls are analog. Now, safety, you have autonomous emergency braking. You've got an auto-dimming rear vision mirror. Blind spot monitoring on the wing mirror. You have a lane departure warning, rear cross traffic alert, front and rear parking sensors, and a 360 camera. I'll show you what that looks like. Ooh, that is really not good. So obviously small screen, but you can see the quality of that reverse camera is pretty poor. You can barely make out what's on our suitcase. The guidelines move with the wheel though, and this view is fairly redundant because you just can't see what's going on there. Now, practicality, we'll start off with your connectivity. So down here, you've got that HDMI port I mentioned earlier, 2 USB-A ports, a 12 volts outlet. There's no wireless phone charging, but in terms of storing your phone, it can live down here in this slot down the front, although it was designed for earlier phones that weren't very big because it doesn't really fit a big phone, but you can pop your phone in the cup holder if you want. Coffee cups, so they fit okay in there, but the lid runs the risk of getting de-lidded if you have a pool-sized coffee cup. Bottles fit in there without any dramas, but no teeth, so they do move around a little bit. Bottle storage inside the door is fine for a small bottle. I'll try out a big bottle, see if that goes in there. Yeah, no dramas at all, which is good news. Center console, nice and deep. That is a big old storage slot. You've got a glove box down here, which is pretty reasonably sized. And finally, you have a sunglasses holder up the top. So moving on to comfort, you have dual zone automatic climate control. You have heated seats for the front row. Driver's seat is electrically adjustable, so you can go forwards, backwards. Backrest can go forwards, backwards. You can lift the front, you can lift the back. The passenger seat, on the other hand, is all manually adjustable. In terms of the steering, you have both tilt and reach adjustment. And on the reach test, all of this stuff is easy to reach while you're driving. Now, second row, before I hop in, let me show you how this works. You can drop this down, so this gives you a little bit of extra storage space behind there. This is also where you'll find your 2 top tether points, the jack and a couple of other bits and bobs. Now, what's it like if I hop in here? Yeah, so it's not the best amount of leg room, so my knee is sort of in that seat toe room is limited, headroom is not too bad. So hopefully with the next generation of Triton, they do increase the space here a little bit. Creature comfort, so you got a little storage slot there. You have under here 2 USB-A ports. You have map pockets here. ISOFIX on the outboard seats and the 2 top tethers behind. Got a center armrest here with 2 cup holders, so you can whack your bottle in there if you want to. And then you also have storage for a bottle inside the door. Now, our window test. So it's manual down. Oh, it doesn't quite go down all the way, but I forgot to mention just before, you do actually have vents up the top here as well with your own fan controls as well, which is pretty cool. So I've just hit the road in the Triton. Now, not a whole lot has changed here in terms of the drivetrain, and I don't think we're going to see any change up until the next generation of Triton comes in, where they'll probably throw a whole lot more at it. At the moment, it's powered by a 2.4 litre turbocharged 4-cylinder diesel engine. Makes 133 kilowatts of power at 430 newton meters of torque. So it is significantly down on most other competitors in this segment. I think closest to it would be D-Max at 450 newton meters. So Ranger, Hilux, they've moved up to 500 newton meters. And then if you go for the V6, it is even higher than that. So yeah, look, I think it is a little bit behind, but in saying that, this is significantly lighter than some of its competitors. So it comes in at just under 2,000 kilograms, which is some 200 plus kilograms lighter than something like a Ford Ranger, for example. And that's all made into a 6-speed automatic transmission. What does it feel like behind the wheel? So get stuck into it here. Yeah, look, it does make a fair bit of noise, but not a great deal actually happens, which is okay, but you will notice that when you're towing, you really need to get stuck into it for it to keep up with traffic if you do have a load on the back. So Mitsubishi claims a combined fuel economy of 8.6 litres per 100 Ks. We are currently sitting on 10.2 litres per 100 Ks. So a little bit higher than that claim, but at the end of the day, that is kind of what I would expect when it comes to a ute this size. Now, one innovation that Mitsubishi does have that I really like is called the Super Select 4-wheel drive system. So what you can do here, just like in the new V6 Ford Ranger, you can drive it in 2-wheel drive high range, or you can drive it in 4-wheel drive on sealed surfaces. Typically in these dual cab utes, you can't use 4-wheel drive high range on a sealed surface. And if you want to know why, you can click up here to watch our 4-wheel drive controls explain video. Then in addition to that, you can lock the center diff and go into low range. So it really has all of those bases covered, but I will run you through some of those 4-wheel drive controls when we do go off-road. Now, there is no sport mode, but you do have these enormous paddles here. So let's go for a punt around the track and we'll see what it feels like. So I'll do part of this in 2-wheel drive. There is a lot in body roll there. That's okay. So yeah, the big advantage of that Super Select 4-wheel drive system is that you can run it in 2-wheel drive, or you can run it in 4-wheel drive high range on sealed surfaces. But to be honest, this is actually doing okay even just there in 2-wheel drive high range, sticking to the road, which is all good. These paddles do come in handy. Like, I really don't like in the new Ranger how you have to go to the gear stick to do everything. Having access to the paddles, especially when towing, just makes your life a whole lot easier. I'll flick that over to 4-wheel drive. We'll see what this feels like. So when it does engage 4-wheel drive, you immediately feel the steering become heavier because you're now driving through the front wheels in terms of steering, but you're also sending torque through the front wheels as well. So you do notice a big change there in terms of steering feel. Here's our back straight. I've got that pinned to the board and not a great deal is happening. So yeah, I kind of expected that. It is worth noting here as well that unlike, again, a lot of the competitors in the segment now, the Triton still uses hydraulically assisted steering. It's fine most of the time, but I did notice behind the scenes here before we actually start filming, I'll do some dynamic runs on the ride and handling track and also on our skid pan. And the skid pan has some specific lane markings in there. It's got like its own little Motorcana track within it. And you do notice that in vehicles like this with hydraulic racks, when you do get to the end of that little dynamic route, it becomes really heavy and hard to steer, and that is because you are fully loading up that hydraulic system. Now, that's not an issue in a car like this because you're not going to be fanging up a mountain, but if you are doing off-road driving and you are doing a lot of steering inputs, that's where you will notice this thing get really heavy, and that's not a great thing to have while you're driving off-road. Okay, so it is time for our 0 to 100 run. We actually go up to 120, so I can get the 80 to 120 overtaking time as well. I'm going to do this in two-wheel drive, and if we do get any wheels slip off the line, I'll come back and do it in four-wheel drive, but two-wheel drive should be fine because we will lose less power going to all four wheels. So here it goes. Alrighty, let's have a look at our times. If I jump through the menu here. So 0 to 100, 10.9 seconds, so fairly leisurely. And 80 to 120, 8.3 seconds. So not exactly blisteringly quick. And you can just imagine if you load this up with passengers and you're towing, you know, it is significantly slower. So hopefully they address all of that with next generation of Triton. Now our reverse test. Let's see how quick the Triton will go in reverse. Here it goes. All right, we are pretty much capped out there at just over 40 kilometers an hour in reverse. Now, what about the ride? Now, this is something that Triton isn't too bad at. It is on the softer side, and that means in and around the city it is pretty compliant. That does mean that it is not that great when you do hit corrugated sections of road, but for the most part it's fine and is much better when you do finally load it up. So let's send it over our sine waves. We'll dial this up to 130 k's an hour and see what it feels like. Typically utes over these don't love it because they're built for comfort as opposed to being able to tackle sine waves at 130. So we'll see what this feels like. Whoa, that is floaty. Yeah, it's actually about on par with the Ford Ranger in terms of its floatiness, which is interesting. It's not significantly worse, so it sort of is there with its competitors. Now, what's it like in terms of road noise? Well, it's actually surprisingly pretty good. I drove here on the freeway on Course Chip Road, and it was really actually not that bad. A lot of dual cab utes, especially with all terrains, are quite loud, whereas this was very bearable and something I'd be happy to drive over a longer distance. Now, what's your visibility like? So you can clearly see down the front of the car there, especially with that bull bar. I catch the edge of that so you get a better idea of how much room you have. Big wing mirrors, blind spot monitor built into those, and then visibility out the back is excellent as well. And in terms of turning circle, it's just under 12 meters, which is about what you expect for a big ute like this. Now, time to test our lane support system. So if this did have a semi-autonomous steering function, which it doesn't, I'll be using the 3 outer lanes to see how well that works. All this has is a lane departure warning. Because this is a hydraulically assisted steering rack, there's no way of actually integrating a lane keeping assistant into it. So the best that it can do, or any car with this type of steering, is basically just pulse at the brakes or buzz at you or vibrate. So let's just veer over here. Yeah, literally all it does is beep at you, which is pretty basic. Righto, time to do a little bit of light off-roading. So I'm excited because we've got a new course set up here, and I think it's really going to nicely test some of these vehicles. Now, before I run you through that, I'll run you through the specs on the Triton. So it has a ground clearance of 220 mil. It has an approach angle of 31 degrees. That is the angle of the face you can approach before you hit something at the front of the car. And then it has a departure angle of 23 degrees, which is the same angle, but in reverse. Now, our little course here, I'm going to attempt this in two-wheel drive in dual cab utes because I really want to see how the traction control systems work. Then for our offset mogul, which I do in two-wheel drive, I'll turn around and come back at it in four-wheel drive high range because that's going to kick up a couple of tyres in the air and put some more stress on those traction control systems. And then we'll do some low range stuff on another hill I have around the corner there, plus a river crossing. So let's give this a crack first in two-wheel drive high range. This is strictly for us to get an idea of how the traction control systems work. So we're approaching now, so we're now in a position where that tyre on my right side is going to have little traction. There it is there. And we're now forcing the traction control system to work its hardest to send torque to the other wheel. Oh, that is doing a really good job. So if this has a bad traction control system, it's basically just going to leave us hanging there and we won't get anywhere, but that is a really nice setup. Then on the exit here as well, there is limited traction there too, because now we have that one off the ground and you're kind of forcing it to send all the torque to that wheel. So That is an impressive effort now. It is very muddy at this other end, so I'm going to have to really get stuck into this now to get out of here without getting stuck. Oh, as we grind to a halt, come on. Oh, Jesus. All right, we'll pop this into 4 high. See, this is why you should listen to my advice, which is always get your 4-wheel drive mode set up before you get stuck, not after you're stuck. But I'm okay here. I've got enough motion to go forwards, backwards. There we go. 4-wheel drive. I'll get out of there. All right, now let's go back, and this time around I'm going to put it into 4-wheel drive high range with the center diff locked. So this is going to put a lot of strain on the system because we're telling the car you need to send 50% of torque to the front axle and the rear axle at the same time, and then the traction control needs to sort out the rest of it, which is getting over this offset mogul. You do have a set of drive modes you can pick here when you are in this 4-wheel drive high range with center diff locked scenario. So I'm going to select mud because that is what we're on now, and then we'll climb our mogul here and see how it goes. So it's the first step. So as we get up to this point here, we have full compression on that side, and then right now we have 2 wheels off the ground. It's that one and that one. Tell the traction control system to do its work. Far out, that is seriously impressive. So right now we're kind of seesawing there. That is sensational. That has done it all on its own, just with the aid of traction control. So yeah, bloody impressed there with Triton. It's able to use its traction control without getting the car bogged down like you find sometimes you can with the D-Max. Okay, next up we have our hill climb here. This is fairly muddy at the top here, so this is the opportunity to test low range. So I'm going to flick that all the way over. You put it into neutral, it does its shift there into low range. You need to be in low range for the rear differential lock to work as well, so we're going to get that sorted. There we go, that is in low range. It takes a little bit of time there. Let's pop the rear diff lock on as well. So that is now active. You can see there that it switches off stability control, ABS, traction control when we are in low range. So let's give this a shot. We're on highway terrain tyres, so it might struggle a little bit up the top here. Let's see how it goes. Oh, a little bit of a slip there. Come on. All right, we got there in the end. So tiny bit of a slip at the top. Then we've got our bog hole here, so we'll just smash it through here. There it is, beautiful. And then we have our descent. So I've got a hill descent control here. Look, well, there you go. It says hill descent control not available with rear diff lock on, so I'm going to switch that off. To be honest, I probably wouldn't even use hill descent control if I was in low range anyway, but you know, because science, we will give it a shot. So that is engaged. Crest this hill. I can't see anything here. Here we go. Let's see what it's like. So foot is off the brake. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's probably a little bit slow. And I don't have the ability to use the cruise control here to speed it up at all. So it's a nice casual descent, but yeah, to be honest, I think I would just prefer to just control that all on my own. Okay, time to give our rocks a crack. So there is actually a rock mode here, so I'll change that to that drive mode. So in that rock mode, it sort of takes a bit of sensitivity out of the throttle there. I've mentioned previously in these videos before that I do prefer low range over rocks. It just gives you a little bit more control. And then in addition to that, I'll ride the brake and the throttle at the same time. Again, just to manage speed so it doesn't sort of race over any of this stuff and give us a good old whack if you land on something hard. So yeah, obviously if you're going to be doing anything serious in terms of rock driving like this, you're going to want like a mud terrain or a proper all-terrain tyre, because it's pretty easy to cut the sidewall if you attack a pretty jagged rock, especially at speed. So keep that in mind. But yeah, this is doing a great job. Really nice and comfy inside the cabin. Haven't touched down yet. There you go, it's actually pretty good. We ran the new Ranger over this recently and it was touching down on the side steps, whereas this is just coming over this without any problems. It is funny, despite how old this is, it is still doing a remarkably good job on our light off-road course, which is pretty awesome. Okay, and the last thing we're going to test here while we're in low range is our river crossing. To get to the river crossing, we have a little bit of a drop in just here. Through that. Now, I mentioned earlier that putting it into low range turns off your traction control, ABS and all that sort of stuff, but it is just with the diff locked that it does that. So I've got it in low range at the moment on gravel mode. I'll change that to mud, see how it goes for our river crossing. Now, Mitsubishi doesn't actually have a wading depth for the Triton, which is really weird. So I've been told that this is going to be fine for it to go through. We're currently at 650 in our water crossing here, so TBC. We'll see what happens. A lot of beeping there from the parking sensors, which is annoying. Let's switch that off. Yeah, so it's getting through that without any problems. We'll see what it's like on our climb here with these highway terrains. No complaints there from the tow bar either. Good amount of traction here as we crest this. Look at that, no problems at all. I'm seriously impressed with the Triton. I actually thought this was going to be not very good here, even on our light off-road course, but it has surprised me just how well it is attacking all of this stuff. So yeah, good job, Mitsubishi. So the Mitsubishi Triton, I was surprised how well it actually performed off-road. There is still some life left in this. You don't have to discard it just yet. On-road, it is very much let down by the engine now just feeling a little bit slow. This is out on electrically assisted steering, doesn't have a lot of the safety tech that is now standard on a lot of other utes in this segment. But ultimately, you're paying a price that reflects all of that. It's not like they're charging mega dollars for this. So I think that if you don't want to spend big bucks on a Hilux or a Ranger or something like that, this really is still quite fun to drive. And if you're going to do some off-road driving, it just straight out of the box, it just does what you need it to do. So let me know in the comments section below, are you a Triton owner? What have they been like long term? Are you in the market for a ute and will you look at this, or are you going to go straight to the top of the tree? Let me know what you think down in the comments section below. I should also mention that it comes with a 10-year warranty as well. So that's probably one of the other bonus too. Now, if you did enjoy this video, please make sure you like it and share it with your mates. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon. But until next time, take it easy.